Hello crafty friends, this is the Paper Chef here. In today's Brother Scan and Cut Tips and Tricks tutorial, you are going to learn how to cut out, color, and layer stamped images using your Brother Scan and Cut STX 125. This will work on any model of Scan and Cut, so you can follow along with whichever model you have. So I want to just get started by kind of giving you a couple examples of what I mean by cut, color, and layer. I used What we're going to be using is a stamp positioning tool. This is just part of it. We'll get to that in a minute. A stamp positioning tool called the Stamparatus. It allows us to do what's called two-step stamping, where you're going to be able to stamp one part and then stamp the next part onto that. This is just a stamped image like this. This is a stamped image, and then I'm going to show you how to layer it. This is how to layer it. This is a piece of designer series paper behind it. See how it adds dimension? And then I'm going to show you how to layer it yet again. Look at this extra dimension. This is when you put, let me put this on here. Let me put this on there so you can really see the contrast. This is when you put an extra layer on top of that layer. So you have this layer, another layer, another layer. If for some reason my alignment's off because I moved the machine to do this tutorial, and I will also show you how to align your machine. I might show you that. It just depends on if we cut it and it doesn't cut out nice. Like, see how it has good, like the white space is even around the outsides. So these are good alignment. So sometimes it's a little off, and I've done something on my channel called scanning, cutting, position adjustment. That's when this happens, where the white space is not even around it. So I'll show you how to fix that issue. And I also have a mat loading trick to show you. So this is just going to be packed full of tips and tricks. So let's just get right to it. And we'll see what I need to teach you if any problems arise, we just do it live. We just troubleshoot live, and that's how you learn how to do things. So if it's not a problem, I won't align it again. You know what I'm saying? If it keeps on doing this, like it was doing when it was just sitting in a different part of the room, then that's fine. But sometimes when you move your machine, it needs to be realigned. Now, if you want to know how to use the Stamparatus in much more detail, I have an Ink It Up series on my channel. And in the Ink It Up series, I went over how to actually set up this Stamparatus plates and everything. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just show you that, because we're going to stamp the image. Now, normally, for several reasons, I usually don't color before I cut out with the Scan and Cut. And I can tell you about those reasons if you want to know those reasons. But typically, I don't know what I'm going to do with my project set. And in this case, these are all neutral colors. So I can color these and cut them out. And it actually helps in this case to color them first and then cut them out. But normally I don't know what I'm going to do with all my crafty goodness, and I don't usually just go ahead and cut everything out ahead of time. So I can color them later to match my project. Not only that, not all stamped images, I'm just getting out some colors to use. Not all stamped images cut out correctly. So it's kind of a waste of time if you go and stamp them all and they don't cut out correctly. You're like, oh, I mean, if you colored them all, you're like, oh my gosh, I colored them all. And then I go to cut them out and you're like, oh, I messed them up and they're all colored, right? So for many reasons, I usually don't color before I cut out. But in this case, and today, you know, I'm doing that. I'm telling you why. I am coloring them first because it's better to do the two-step stamping first. So we're going to take a piece of white paper. I'm just putting it down right there on my Stamparatus platform. I have a little piece of tape there to mark it, and I don't know how I lost the magnets already, but we have magnets. There are 2 magnets. I'm just looking for those. Yesterday I found them I looked all over and I found them on the bottom of my platform. That's where I found my magnets. These are very strong magnets. The reason I have them taped is because they just go flying together. They actually go boom, boom, and they can crack. And I've already cracked a couple, but we do sell more magnets. And they come in like a nice sealed container. All right, so now I'm going to take the crumb cake. Okay, I'm taking crumb cake because that's kind of the basis of your squirrel. You always start with the lighter color. I'm going to tap, 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 and I'm tapping onto the Stamparatus. I'm not doing much. I'm just doing a little bit because I'm going to actually dauber it with some more color. Okay, let's get the dauber. And I'm going to, well, actually here, let's just do this and then we'll get the dauber. Here's the dauber. We don't need the dauber yet. We're going to go like this, and we're going to flip it around. Okay, push down. Okay, now we're going to take the dauber and we're going to add some more color to that. So let's say some Cajun craze. Or you could use Cajun craze or cinnamon cider. I'm just going to add a little Cajun craze to my squirrel there. I don't want to make it too dark. Da, 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 da. I'm just giving the squirrel a little bit of color. Close this for a second. Okay, you get a little bit of color, that's cool. And I can even do that a little bit. You know, I can daub it around a little bit because I'm going to put some black on there now. So now we're going to take the black, the Memento black. We'll do this again in a minute. I just want to show you that every time you do this, it's different. I'm taking Memento black ink and I'm inking up the squirrel, the black part of the squirrel. And I'm pressing down. And look at that beautiful squirrel. Okay, and we're going to do it in the reverse order now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish coloring it later because for the many reasons I said to finish coloring later, I want to do that, you know, like with the blends. I take my blends, that's these alcohol markers, and I'll finish coloring those later. There's no sense coloring them now because I might mess them up, right? As I mentioned before. So not all stamped images cut out correctly. So why would I want to color them all ahead of time? Now I'm going to just do it in this order. I'm going to put the black first. This is the whole point of two-step stamping, right? You put one color is the outline, and another color is the inside. And putting the pimento black. We're going to do, again, always put your crumb cake down first. Put your lighter color down first. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to add a little bit of, we already did Cajun craze. Let's do cinnamon cider to this one. That's over here. I think this is the one I'm going to cut out. I'm liking him better already. Okay, a little bit of cinnamon cider. I just used the corner of my stamp pad because I don't want to mess up the major color. And you see how I'm mixing colors a little bit here, so I do it in the corners. And that way I know I've always done it in the corners, right? So I know where I've messed up my ink, not really messed up my ink pad, but I know that if I'm trying to stamp a sentiment, use that part of the ink pad. Okay, that should be enough. I close that ink and let's put a little bit of color on my squirrel. Okay, I also have, that's beautiful. I also have the acorn set up where I could do the two-step stamping with the acorn, but we're going to use the blends to color the acorn later. So now we have our stamped image, and there's our colorful squirrel. I'm going to move all this to the side for a moment. I'm just going to take these plates off so they don't get ink all over my table. I just wanted a couple extra stamps in case, you know, for backup plan. Now I'm going to take my Stampin' Up mat. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of all this stuff. Stamparatus. Oh, and by the way, stick around. If you're new to my channel, stick around. I have loads and loads and loads of squirrel projects to show you at the end of this video. All right, we're going to put this on the mat, okay? Now, if for some reason your mat doesn't load, here's a little trick I figured out. I think people may have, you know, also given me a tip before about sandpaper, but I just used a emery board. I've had many craft friends give me loads of tips and tricks. So, you know, sometimes you forget, did I do this myself or did I figure it out or did someone tell me? It doesn't matter. We're all helping each other. So what you do is when your mat doesn't load, my mat wasn't loading properly, never mess up these dots. These are needed for the scanner, right? But you can take your emery board. I got this from the Dollar Tree, 2 for $1. And I went like this. See what I'm doing? I'm scuffing it up so it catches onto the rollers. And I did that on both sides, and I even did it a little bit across the top because it just wasn't catching. It was driving me crazy. It wasn't catching, so I said, let me just scuff up the corners of my mat. And then it started catching, and it was like a miracle. So I was like, why haven't I done this sooner? Why am I fighting with my mats? But again, don't cover those marks. So hopefully the mat will load seamlessly today. And I think I can get rid of this piece of plastic there. I was just using that to protect my table from any possible ink spillage. So what I'm going to do is move this. And if it doesn't align, like I said, if it doesn't align, we'll find out. So can you see that we're going to try to load it, and then I'll show you where the loading button was in a minute when I change the angle of my camera. Okay, so we're going to just put the mat there. It already stuck, so it's already in better shape than it normally does. It usually just falls right onto the floor when I do this. So it already kind of stuck in there because of the sandpaper, or the, like I said, people may have told me to use sandpaper. I'm just using an emery board. I'm going to go ahead and hit that load button. It says the carriage will move into initial position, and it says loading. I kind of usually just give this a little bit of a push. Okay, it's already not doing it, but we are going to be faithful. Okay, let's try it again. You don't want to really give it a push. You're just trying to keep it from going crooked. So much for my sandpaper. No, I'm just kidding. There it goes. See that? Perfect. Third time's a charm. But it's better than trying to do it for 10 times, right? 10, 20 times. All right. See how much? And I know I need to put these on before everybody starts telling me, oh, use the little things to keep your table from squeaking. What are they? I know you put little things under them. You can put little feet. I just don't have any right now. So we're now changing the angle so you can see my screen. And again, this is a new setup, new room. Everything is always going to be different for a little while until I get settled. All right, this is what I'm going to do now is show you what I used to load the mat. In case you're new to the ScanNCut, what I used to load the mat was this button here. This is the mat loading button. Okay? Now, you turn on your machine, you want to cut out stamped images. That's the idea. This is what I'm teaching you. This is the name of the tutorial. How to cut out stamped images with your ScanNCut. So you've stamped an image, you put it on your mat. You've loaded your mat. You go to scan. The next thing you want to do is go to direct cut, because you're going to directly cut out the image. Right? This is a stamped image. You're directly cutting it out. You're not saving it. There's another reason you might want to save it later. I could talk about that, but we're not doing that here. You want to cut it out directly, so you're going to hit direct cut. Okay? Now it's asking where do you want to store it. I'm not linked to the wireless right now. The only really choice I have is just to store it on the machine. This is just temporary storage. This would mean do you want to store it to your device temporarily. I'm just storing it to the machine itself. And now it is in the top half of the mat. You saw me put this on the top half of the mat. So I'm going to say 12 by 6. That's where it's a 12 by 6 area. It saves time. CM models don't have this option, or at least my CM350 doesn't, or my CM300. But it's a really nice option, and that's where you find this option. Do you want to scan 12 by 12? That takes more time. If you don't need to, just use 12 by 6. Like I said, if you don't have that option, don't worry about it. Always use black and white recognition mode, always first. Even though I stamped this in color, you still want to use black and white recognition mode because you have good contrast between the black outline and the outside. Okay, now we're going to click OK, and we're going to click Start. Now, there is a little gap in his nose. One of the nice things about coloring this little guy, is it this nose? Let me find the stamp set. One of the little things about coloring this guy was I should have got rid of the little gap in this nose here. See that little gap? If not, if it doesn't recognize the squirrel, you might have to use the pencil trick. But once you color it all in, usually the gap in the nose kind of just blends in and disappears. But you don't need, if there's no gaps in the black lines, you should have no trouble scanning this except for maybe the nose. And that's when you would just put a little tiny pencil mark. And I have lots of other videos on that. So anyway, it's scanned in, we're going to click OK. So it did a good job, and I don't need to worry about the pencil trick. So you might be saying, what are all those blobs? What are all those things? I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. See all those blobs? All that stuff in the back. Let me zoom back out. All that stuff is recognizing the dirt on my mat. So you want to get rid of all the things that you don't want in your video, in your scan. So you want to get rid of, you want to take a selection tool, and you want to go in and you want to select just the squirrel. So that's one way to get rid of the unwanted bits that are all around, the dirt that got scanned. Another way to get rid of the unwanted bits is to do ignore object size. Get rid of all those little bits out there. But you don't want to ignore something too big because you'd be ignoring the very thing you're trying to scan. But we're okay with this. We're just ignoring things if we need to. We click OK. So now we're going to cut out the squirrel, and we're going to cut it out not along the line, because personally, that's just my preference. I don't like to cut it along the line. If you did, just go ahead and click cut at this point, or click OK and then cut. If you don't want the white space, for me, I love the white space around the squirrel. I personally love that. So I leave it there, and I wanted to use an outline distance of 0.04 to get that white space around my squirrel. It also helps me because it's more forgiving. It kind of helps when if you cut along the line, sometimes it's just not an even cut. But when you put this little outline distance, it's a little more forgiving. So we're going to click OK, and we're going to click OK. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm showing you how to cut out the first of the 3 layers that we're going to cut out. So then you click Cut. OK, OK, Cut. You don't have as many OKs to hit on a CM model, but you have a few more to hit on an SDX model, which I'm using right here. If you are using a CM model, do everything I just showed you, except you would have to set your blade depth. And you would set your blade depth to a blade depth of 4 for the paper that I'm using. So let's show you the pack of paper that I'm using. Or I don't know if I have the pack of paper, but it is Basic White by Stampin' Up. Here it is. Okay, we have 2 kinds of white paper. See this? This is called Basic White. You know it's those thinner Basic White. It's not the thick Basic White when there's 40 sheets in a pack. If it's thick, it'll say thick. So I'm using regular Basic White. That means if you're using a CM model where you have to set the blade depth. Oh, good, it cut out good. Here, let me just show you that. Let me show you. Well, anyway, you hit OK. And don't remove the mat. I just want to show you something now. We'll move the machine and not the mat. All right, there we go. It cut out good. If you're using, let me just go back to this. I'm going to pull this off for a second. The blade, if you're using Basic White cardstock, okay, this is Basic White. You're going to use a blade depth of 4 in a CM model of machine. I don't have to use a blade depth. I'm using an auto blade. See? There's no number on this blade. You don't have to set the blade depth because it's auto blade in an SDX, which is really nice. All right, so anyway, all you do to get this off, you need to get it off, but you need to figure out where you left it. So there's a reason I need to figure out where I left it. So I'm just going to put something there like there. Because you need to have a, okay. And so I know where I'm pulling this off of. Okay, let's get your little spatula out. And that is how to cut out stamped images. Is that awesome or what? And I'm happy with the alignment, so I'm going to leave it be. And we'll do alignment tricks for another time. But we are now going to do the next layer. So wouldn't it be cute to have a nice little layer of dimension around this squirrel? So we need to put a piece of paper there in that same area, the same general area. I recommend either, there's lots of different papers I could recommend. So like this is Beauty of the Earth. I've been using Beauty of the Earth for some of the cards I'll show you, and we can even make a card probably with the extra crafty goodness. Here's a piece of, we could use this piece here, because this is a piece of In Good Taste Designer Series paper, right? This is a good way to put an outline for the first time. So let's use this one. Stick it in there. Okay, you're probably like, the voice in your head is saying, she tells me never to cover the black marks. Right? Never to cover the black marks. Well, in this case, it doesn't matter because I'm not actually doing any more scanning. It already knows the shape that it needs to cut out, so I can cover those black marks a little bit. So this is what I'm going to use for my little outline distance on this squirrel. First run through. So what the idea is here, here's what I'm showing you, just the big picture. We cut out one squirrel. Now we need to cut out another squirrel. This is 0.04 outline distance. This is going to be 0.08 outline distance. And this is 0.12 outline distance. See, this is how we're making our multi-layered squirrel. Lots of dimension, and you add dimensionals, which are the foam adhesives between the layers, and it's even better. So now, let me just focus in on that. So we're going to go back, and we're going to, I think my camera is fogging up. Or is it just me? Maybe it's my glasses fogging up. Anyway, hope it's not my camera. We are going to go back. Right? We want to go back this. Now, remember, we didn't remove the mat from the camera. We didn't remove the mat from the machine. We did not unload the mat. You leave the mat. You're just going back one step, and you're going to hit, here's the stylus. Instead of 0.4 outline distance, you're going to go back and you're going to hit 0.08, and we're going to click OK, and click OK, and you're going to go ahead and cut the 0.08. See, it's making a bigger blob. It's making a bigger outline distance. So then we'll remove that, and then we're going to do one in gold because of the contrast. We're going to do one in gold for the last outline. And that's how you make a multi-layered. Now they're cute with even just one layer, right? These are all cute. You don't need to have so many layers, but isn't it cuter with layers? Just looking for some gold paper because every time I craft, I make the huge mess and can't find anything again. So we will look for some papers here. I have been using, I've been using In Good Taste, Beauty of the, this is called Blackberry Beauty. I've been using Beauty of the Earth. I've been using all kinds of designer series papers, which I'll list in the description of this video when I do my blog post. So if you want to be updated as to when I get all the descriptions done, if you subscribe to my blog on thepaperedchef.com, then you're going to know when I do all these updates. I think the gold is in here. We will find it. So next thing I want to do, hey, thanks for the super chat. Brenda, thanks for the super chat donation to my channel. That was awesome. And what I'm doing now is I'm just going back down. You rock. Okay, let's go. Go here. We're going to go doo-doo-doo. See how it didn't matter that I covered that black part? It didn't matter because it was already scanned in. So again, you just leave this piece of paper there to know where to put the next piece. So we're going to get the little spatula and get that off there and see where we're at here. We have the second layer. We need to find a little piece of gold. And as I was cleaning up, I thought I saved these little pieces of gold, but we're fine. It doesn't matter if I use actual gold, but I can use silver. I'm just trying to use something that's a little bit contrasty. Now don't use this one. This will kind of mess up your blade of your ScanNCut. Don't use the bedazzling for this. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. Okay, let's see if it's this. Here we go. This is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use brushed metallic cardstock, okay? Brushed metallic cardstock. We'll put one of those in there. I kind of like when the green goes this way on the brushed metallic, so we'll put that in there. And again, the reason I'm putting it there, and I'll even give it a little bit more space, is that's where my squirrel goes, so here. Just remember, you could do a whole page of these at once, and then you won't need to worry about where it's cutting out. You just cut out a bunch at once. I tried not to do too many at once because I was trying to make sure that there's a reason I didn't do too many at once. I was trying to put them back together. Like after I cut them out, I was trying to match the right background to the right foreground, so that's why. That's why I just did it this way, just a few at once. All right, so there we go. Now we have their piece of gold in there. So hopefully you guys anticipate. I want you to understand how to do this so much, but you know what I'm going to do next. I hope you know what I'm going to do next, and that is to go back. I'm going to hit the back button. I'm going to hit the outline distance, and I'm going to hit the 0.12. Okay, I'm going to hit the 0.12. I'm going to click OK, OK, and it's just going to make a bigger blob and cut. Okay, you can do this to infinity and beyond. You could cut out 10 layers if you want. Wouldn't that be fun? If you want to be bigger layers, if you want the layers to be bigger, you know, like wider, then, you know, you would use, instead of going from 0.4 to 0.8 to 0.12, just go ahead and go to 0.4 to right to 0.12, and then you'll have a giant outline distance. She said I get it. She said YouTube takes Brenda said in her donation, YouTube takes the majority of my super chat. I have no idea. I have no idea how much they even take because I don't even keep track, but thank you for letting me know. I didn't even know what, I have to probably keep track of this better. And I should ask you guys to subscribe and definitely share the videos that you like because I keep forgetting to do that. And thank you very much for writing that. All right, do you see what I did? That was the bigger blob. That was the extra layer. So we need to find the first layer. We've already found, this is the second layer. Okay, this was, let's pull that out. Oh, and by the way, say you're using, remember I told you about the blade depths, okay? I don't want you to leave you hanging. So we'll get the 3 layers and I'll tell you about the 3 blade depths. So I already lost my first little Mr. Squirrel. That's not, I mean, the reason I was trying to do just a few at once, like I said, is to match the right squirrel to the right background because there's a little slight difference each time they scan in. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't, but I don't know how in that little bit of time I lost Mr. Squirrel. But let's just say this was our squirrel. That's not our, oh, here he is. Maybe this is our squirrel. I think this is our squirrel. All right, so the reason is there's slight variations when you scan in this squirrel versus this squirrel because there's just, maybe I colored a little bit outside the line and it scanned in a little bit. So I like to do, I like to do this. So I like to match these together. That's why I only scan a few and cut a few at once. So I can match these together so that this is the right background for the squirrel. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so she said YouTube takes 35%. Wow, had no idea. Okay, so here's what we did. So review now, before I go on, because there's way more to this tutorial now. We have our 0.04 outline distance. This was a blade, if you're using a CM model, this was a blade depth of 4. We have our 0.08 outline distance. This is designer series paper. This is in good taste. Blade depth of 3, because it's thinner than this. See, it's thinner. Now we're using cardstock. Brushed metallic cardstock, thick stuff. This is as thick as basic white cardstock. Blade depth of 5. So 3, 4, 5, right? Blade depth of 3, blade depth of 4, blade depth of 5. Let's see. Outline distance 0.04, 0.08, 0.12. You'll memorize it too, don't worry. You'll probably do this so much that you'll memorize it. And I'll write it in the description, but it takes me like sometimes a week. I'm like a week behind on my blog post. Well, I say a week to be nice to myself, but I'm probably more than a week behind in my blog post. Then you put your little dimensionals on there, and I want to show you how to make some projects with these and how to do the rest of the coloring. And I want to explain that this was the same exact process, except once in a while you might have to use a pencil to enclose. If there's any gaps in the little head, you may have to use a pencil to enclose that. Let's get rid of this. Not for a second. And if we need to go back to the scan and cut, we will, but I think we're good with that. So I just need to tilt down. Where's my tilt button? Nope, that wasn't it. Is that it? Okay. That's it. Yes, it'll cut chipboard, but only this model, only SDX models. Don't try to cut chipboard in your regular CM models unless you have what's called a deep cut blade, or you'll really botch things up. Make sure if you use a deep cut blade holder, or it's called I think it's called a deep cut blade holder. And that's in a CM model. This one does cut thicker materials than the other. Okay, so here's what I want to finish doing. And we're going to finish layering that and finish coloring that. So what you're going to do is take some blends. Don't overthink this, guys. These are neutral colors, meaning everything goes with these colors, right? Don't overthink the coloring process. Don't go, oh my God, what did she do? Why didn't I write it down? It totally doesn't matter. It only matters what you have in your stash. Okay, everything goes with these fall colors. I'm just going to tell you what I'm using, but use whatever you have. I'm using a dark Cajun craze. And I'm going to use a dark Cajun craze to go like this on my little acorn. Whenever you use alcohol markers, you need to make sure, I'm going to now take the dark crumb cake, and I'm going to make sure I blend them while they're wet. If you don't blend them while they're wet, they won't sort of meld together and sort of be like a blob. And in the alcohol inks, you want them to sort of meld, sort of blend together. Now we've already done a lot of texture just when we were doing the little sponge daubering. So this was just that's called water-based ink. Now I'm using alcohol-based ink. What's nice about using Memento Black for the stamping and the basic in the background is I can use inks on top of them and they won't run all over the place. Now I'm going to take my light crumb cake for the bottom of the acorn, the light crumb cake, and I'm just going to color in the acorn. Okay, oops, let's use the thin side. The thin side is probably better. Now, if I were to use just crumb cake to color in this little guy, he won't contrast with the acorn. I can do a couple little. I can do a little do like that. See? So that's what I've done so far. Now, if I use just the crumb cake right on this part, and this part, he won't contrast with the acorn. So what I did is I took my ivory and my petal. I actually had petal pink too. I found a dark petal pink. I was trying to make the squirrel a little bit pinker in some of these cases. Here, let me find one I did this with recently. I colored them all a little differently. Let's say, and here's my twinsies. The twinsies cut out, it was kind of like a happy accident. When I stamped them close together, you can get twins and cut out the twins with the ScanNCut. Isn't that cool? So this is how I colored this one. See how it's a little more pinkish? So I used so if you touch the whiskers of one to the tail of the other, which was accidental, it cut out twins, which I absolutely love. And I'm going to use those on a card. So I got twin squirrels. All right, so what I'm doing is dark petal pink. And I just sort of, it doesn't matter which side you use, so sort of the brush side, right? See, sort of like that, because I want some pink in there. And you can do it sloppily, because you're going to take your crumb cake at the end and sort of blend it all together. So that's dark petal pink. Now I'm taking my ivory. Ivory is one of the neutral colors. We have bronze and ivory, which are skin tones. And I'm just going to take some ivory. That's a little bit pinkish too compared to the crumb cake. And I just threw some ivory on top of that. And now I'm going to take my light crumb cake and blend it all together while it's all wet. See, so this is what I'm doing. While it's all wet, now I can kind of worry about coloring out to the line, because now I have my final color. And now I have my texture. And if you want to go over all the other stamping you did earlier, that is fine too. But now it contrasts with my acorn. So my acorn was just plain old crumb cake, but look at the difference when I do. I'm coloring midair, how fun. And I can go over the whole thing if I want. I can do his little ears. Okay? Look how fun these squirrels are to color. Now we're going to take it at the end, for good measure, color his little eyes. So this is Pool Party. Let's see what kind of Pool Party. Dark Pool Party. Pool Party is the one color. If you were going to get one set of blends, it would be Pool Party. If you're like, oh, I want to try blends, what color should I start with? It would be crumb cake probably second, but Pool Party first, because the reason is this can be snow, sky, eyes, basically anything. I just use Pool Party the most. I've gone through about 5 sets of these Pool Parties, where I've only gone through like 3 sets of crumb cake. Okay, so that's the Mr. Squirrel. And now you're going to put the Wink of Stella, but we'll do the dimensionals first, and then we'll do the Wink of Stella. So you need some dimensionals, and you're going to probably use a combination of the small dimensionals. And don't worry, alcohol markers, they bleed through, which is what they're supposed to do. If you use the regular thin basic white cardstock, it's going to bleed through. But it doesn't matter, because you can't see the back, A, and you're also, you can't see the back, and I'm just using bigger dimensional on it. And you're layering them up anyway. So making sure you take the sticky parts off. Boop, boop, boop. So now that I have it on here centered, see, I needed my fingers to center it, and I need my fingers again to do the next part. That's why I didn't use the Wink of Stella yet. I didn't want to rub the Wink of Stella off of my squirrel. So you see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of adding, oops. Put that there. Yeah, thank you. Yvonne said she likes the red squirrels I made yesterday. You're going to get to see all my squirrels. I probably have at least 10 projects to show you. Now I'm going to show you the projects from yesterday, where I showed how to use the Stamparatus and how to color more. We did more coloring tricks in that video than I did today. And you're going to get to see the projects that you can create when you don't have a ScanNCut, but you have this really cool stamp set. So now, see how I'm using my fingers? That's why I needed to do, here you go. That's right. And that's why I needed to put them, now I can do the Wink of Stella. So we're going to take this and we're going to Wink of Stella it. And this is how I pretty much did. I like to, when I teach you the tutorials about how to use stamped images, I like to show you what to do with those stamped images. There's no sense making a giant bucket of crafty goodness, which is all these little pieces, right? There's no sense making all these pieces, cutting out all these squirrels, having, 50 squirrels cut out, and now you're like, what do I do with them? Unless I show you projects. So that's what I'm doing next. I'm going to show you the projects, but I want to show you start to finish how to just do one project, right? With this concept. So I showed you how to stamp it. I showed you how to cut it. I showed you how to layer it. I showed you how to finish coloring it. Now we're adding the Wink of Stella, that extra sparkle. Right? We have, this is paper that would work. It's called Beauty of the Earth. It would work as a background. This would work as Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. It's in our annual catalog. So look at all these cool colors that will work. It'll work because cinnamon cider's in there. What else is in there? Cajun Craze is in there, right? This will work because it's called In Good Taste Designer Series paper. It will work with anything because it's neutral. It's neutral. This will work. This is Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. It'll work for any of your backgrounds. So you have whatever papers. If you've ever done one of my paper shares, you have something that will work. I already have one sort of made for you just to kind of give you the idea. We started out with a piece like this. We then cut it down, this is Beauty of the Earth. It's 5 1/4 by 4. So there's your piece of cinnamon cider with Beauty of the Earth. And now it has the cool little trees there. So now you take your bucket of crafty goodness, all these sentiments that you've already cut out ahead of time. We got hi there. We got nuts about you. We'll do one of these. Hope you're feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. That's a great sentiment from this set. So you stamp them ahead of time on your little pieces. And you need some contrast. Here's some cinnamon cider. Here's some Cajun craze. So you just get out your little sentiments and go, okay. You need a little piece of contrast. You need something. You could probably use this little piece of wood. You could use some of this little bedazzling, which is, we're already out of bedazzling. It ran out during celebration, unfortunately. But we still have penguins. So if you like the penguins, get the penguins. Okay, I need to use my dull blade. Whenever you cut with this, you need your dull blade. Okay, I have a dull blade on here, and I'm just cutting 4 inches here. Hopefully that's 4 inches. I'm literally looking through the camera and not looking straight at the machine, so I have to look through the camera. Oops, this is my dull blade. All right, it cut. So this will need a piece of, let's do 1.5 inches of the bedazzling. What I'm trying to do is just have some contrast. So I can put that little sentiment on the back, the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed sentiment, without putting it on the white part of the paper. So we have a little piece of bedazzling. Put that, we'll either put it there or the top. Not sure yet. You have to see, you gotta assemble your card before you put it together. You gotta sort of lay things out. This is gonna be 4 inches. This is a piece of Beauty of the Earth. All right. We need to know this is going on there, so we can at least do that part. This is going on this part, the bedazzling paper. So this is Seal Plus. It's really cool. It's really good adhesive. See the little ridges in it? You're going to go do that, and you're going to do that. So again, I'm not going to make one card at a time. I'm going to make a lot of cards at a time. I'm going to cut out all my stamped images at once. I'm going to just sit and color all the part with the blends. You're going to have the assembly line process. Okay. Okay, now we're going to put all this stuff together. Here's our little squirrel with all the layers. And we have a squirrel, we have a sentiment, and then we have a couple things like this. So we're going to see where to put everything on the card. I'm thinking maybe like that, but it could be that the squirrel goes on top, so it was nuts about you. I'm just thinking something like that I could do, because I really like that background. Yeah, I'm liking this. I want the squirrel facing that way. Or I could do, no, the squirrel shouldn't be up high in the air. Okay, I could do nuts about you up there. See, this is just how you make a card. You just do it. Don't overthink it. Just lay it out before you glue it. Nope, I like the first way better. I'm going to do this. So we're going to do something like that. Nuts about you can hang off that banner. So you just start adhering things together. And if you just sort of know the card base, which is always going to be 4 inches by 5 1/4, then you just make little pieces that are either 4 inches across, or make little pieces that are 5 1/4 high, right? And pop this up with dimension. This one I'm going to not pop up with dimensionals. The nuts about you, I'm just sticking that right on there like that. And this one I'm going to pop up with dimensionals. Okay, on this part. And so you needed that for contrast, because we couldn't put this right on the sky. So the sky was white and it wouldn't have been enough contrast. This one we don't need any more dimensionals on. Look at that. There's already 3 sets. Why would we need another set of dimensionals? That would be ridiculous. So we're going to just put the glue right on it, the adhesive, because it already has 3 sets of dimensionals. And you want to get the thing through the envelope after all, right? Or you might even put it in a care package if it's too thick of a card. But you can put it in an envelope. Bada boom, the squirrel is in the trees. And there's your project. You know how I stamped it. I stamped it earlier. That's how I stamped it with the Stamparatus. Stamp a squirrel in there. Nuts About You. Hope you're feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Now I'm about to show you all my other projects after I say hi to you guys. Thank you so much for coming in. It's one of the first times I've ever announced one of my lives. I don't usually schedule them, but I did tell my ScanNCut group, and I see some of you came over, which is so nice. I have a ScanNCut group on Facebook, and I said, hey, I'm going live, and then I was like, a minute later, I had somebody like waiting, you know, for when I got in, so I've never really had anybody waiting for me to go live before because I never announced my lives. So that was Frida. So shout out to Frida for waiting for me for when I was getting started. So that was pretty cool. So hello, Frida. Hello, B. Pre, Diana, B, Pamela. Okay, your alerts are working better tonight, Pamela. That's cool. Melody, hello. Yvonne. Nola, hello. And M. Bruner. Frida wants to make sure everybody knows she's from Texas. And Brenda. She was asking about the chipboard. Yes, it cuts out chipboard and it cuts out cardboard, but it's not going to be good for your blades. I mean, get separate blades if you're trying to cut out weird stuff, right? If you're trying to cut things that aren't regular paper, like I wouldn't do this to my poor ScanNCut. You should see what it's done to my trimmer. This is called bedazzling paper. So no, I would not attempt to cut out too many thick things with this without a separate blade because it's going to really wear out your blade. But you can always kind of get your blade in tip-top shape with a ball of foil. Okay, so Yvonne wants to see the red squirrels again. We'll show you the red squirrels from yesterday. Aloha, Raylene from Hawaii. Can't figure out how to cut cardboard, Allie. Just same way as you cut anything else, but let the auto blade do its trick. If it's too thick, it'll tell you. It'll tell you to put the lever up. There's a lever on the side. It's going to say move it up to 2 for cutting thick material. If it says to move it up to 2 and it says it's too thick, then just don't do it. I mean, you can't do it. You can't do it. Get out an X-Acto knife. I mean, what can I say? This machine only does so much, so we can't wear it out. If it says it can't do it, then don't do it. All right. I mean, it'll tell you. It'll tell you whether it can do it or not. It's going to actually tell you it can cut the cardboard, and if it's too thick, it just won't cut. I've cut felt. I've cut fun foam. I've cut chipboard, but it's kind of a thin chipboard, like the kind from the back. You guys are Stampin' Up people here. A lot of you are Stampin' Up you. You know, the kind from the back of the specialty papers, not just any board like that. All right, craft. And anyway, Allie, just go in the ScanNCut user group and ask people. They'll help you. They're very, very helpful there, which is why I love the group, because they help answer questions I can't answer, and they try things that I've never tried. There's so many people in there that make incredible clothing and bling, and I mean, they're doing all kinds of stuff with the ScanNCut, which is awesome. All right, so I'm glad, Yvonne. Thank you for your comment. Hello from Peru, Charlene. And yeah, Ali was asking about CM models. I'm using this SDX model. There's CM models as well. I try to reach out to my whole audience and let you know how to do it so I don't have to do a separate tutorial every time. I'm using an SDX model right now. I'm not going to do a separate tutorial for these squirrels on a CM model. That's why I was giving you the actual things you need to do with your blade. All right, so let's start showing you projects. All right, so here's a tag. So right now in our Stampin' Up store, we have these little trinkets that are on clearance. They were there yesterday, so I always say right now, but got to preface that. And I just thought these acorn trinkets, ever since I saw the squirrel set and the acorn trinkets were on clearance, I went and stocked up on some acorn trinkets. They're really heavy duty, and I've been putting them on a lot of my 3D projects, so they're lots of fun. Okay, now, so that's what I did there with a little piece of twine. And there's my little squirrel. And this is paper I showed on another tutorial. This is called TaylorMade Tags Punch, or TaylorMade's Tags Dies. And this is called the Pattern Party Designer Series paper. And I put Nuts About You on the other side with some other specialty paper that we no longer have. Okay, I put some gingham ribbon, which I think is on back order right now. And again, this is the TaylorMade tag. So that's cinnamon cider. Okay, this I didn't do anything with yet, but I think it's going to make a good twinning card, right? Twinsies. Okay, and then you saw this one. Okay, look, what else do I have? I have a lot of other things for you here. I have more squirrels, more twinsies. I was happy when they did this. Like, it was when I was using my Stamparatus, and I pushed the paper over, they just kept getting so close together that they became twins. And I'm like, ooh, they're going to be so fun to use. Okay, here's a birthday card that I made with the 3 layers. And this is the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper. Beauty of the Earth, layers of trees. Mr. Squirrel, happy birthday. I forget where this die came from, but this die here is part of my Give It a Whirl kit. I've been doing a Give It a Whirl series, and I make extra hearts from when I'm trying to make the little card spin, and that's where I got that extra heart. Cajun Craze, cinnamon cider. Okay, we'll put that there. So this is a birthday card. Oh, Old Olive. This is Old Olive because this Old Olive, see how there's a piece of Old Olive in the back in the trees? It's just one of the coordinating colors. And also inside there, the coordinating color in the Beauty of the Earth paper was the cinnamon cider was another coordinating color. All right, let's keep going. I have so many projects to show you here because I made so many yesterday as well. I'm showing you the ScanNCut ones first, the ones I actually cut out the squirrel with the ScanNCut. And then I'm showing you ScanNCut ones, and then I'm going to show you the ones that I didn't use the ScanNCut for at the end. This is a piece of some twine I had. I think it was Blackberry Bliss, so it sort of matched my. This is the Blackberry Beauty Designer Series paper. I used the double oval punch to make this. I used the Time for Giving punch, another acorn trinket, and this little pillow box is retired. I think I ate the Snickers that was in there. This is Blackberry Beauty paper. These are Hershey Nugget treats inside the box. And there was a Snickers in the box. So you just want to put candies that have nuts in them on your treats. And I ate the Snickers. So there was a Snickers. But now there's an Almond Joy. Because Almond Joy's got nuts. Mounds don't. Okay, what else do we have? We have this card here. Which is, there's the red squirrel. So Yvonne, you wanted to see Mr. Red Squirrel. I showed you how to make red squirrels yesterday with the Cajun Craze. And this is some ephemera from the Blackberry Beauty. That paper is really fantastic. And I love this bedazzling paper, and I'm sad it's sold out, but I think I hoarded enough to put it in my next series. I'm going to do a gift giving series in the future after I finish the Give It a Whirl series. And I think I have enough to give everybody some pieces of that to put in their tags. Because we're making a lot of tags and gift packaging. All right, so what else we have? Let's see. Another one. Here's another one. Hey there. There's a tag. The gift giving dies. I put dimensionals behind these leaves, and what happened is the dimensionals were white. Now we do make black dimensionals, so I was like, I should have just used the black dimensionals behind the leaves, and I have black dimensionals. I just wasn't thinking of it, so the white showed through. So then I colored here. I colored in the leaves to make sure the dimensionals weren't showing through. So here's what you can do with the little tags, tailor-made tags, gingham ribbon. And again, the same technique I showed on my channel recently, because a lot of my tutorials are related. This was, if you missed it, how to color pattern. It was one of my Ink It Up series. How to color pattern paper. No, how to color paper with your sponge daubers, I guess it was called. But this was pattern party paper, and I colored it with cinnamon cider. The same technique I used for this tag here, coloring these leaves with cinnamon cider. This was just a more watered down version of the cinnamon cider. Okay, so there is, Katie's already ready to sign up for my next series. It'll be on my Facebook soon, or my store soon, but I'm trying to work out the details. But what I was doing is I wanted to make sure that whoever got my prizes were all settled first, and I'm all caught up with all my prizes and all my drawings. All right, so now what I want to show you is, say you just fell in love with this stamp set. I showed you a bazillion things you can do with the ScanNCut with the stamp set, right? Now, say you just fall in love with the stamp set, but you're like, I don't have a ScanNCut, but I'm just watching you for fun, which is great. I love a lot of you watching me for fun. And you want the stamp set, and you want to do two-step stamping. Go ahead and watch my tutorial on how to use the Stamparatus for doing the two-step stamping, but you can also just go ahead and use a stamping block. I haven't used any of my little leaves yet, but I think I can use these extra accents. I did stamp these leaves and layered them, and I think I'm going to use these as accents on some projects before I take my photos. Because these leaves are more friendly leaves. These are more elegant leaves. So if I were to use this kind of leaf from the gift giving dies, I won't use these kind of leaves on it, right? But these kind of leaves I think go better with this paper, the pattern party paper. Anyway, what you can do if you don't have a ScanNCut is just do what I showed you with the two-step stamping and make your squirrels and then cut them out with dies or just use your scissors. I mean, don't overthink it. Use your scissors. Make little squares and cut them out. Or actually, just make your cards. It's because before this tutorial started, I said, let me just make a few, or let me just, I don't know if I stamped a few onto pieces of paper, right? It's just in case I didn't, if my stamping wasn't going well, we could cut these out. There's another twinsy. I did one on very vanilla. So just so we could use the ScanNCut to cut it out. So just stamp straight onto your card like I did for the inside of some of my cards. I don't know which ones have something on the inside. Say like this. So say you don't have a ScanNCut. This is what you do. You stamp right onto a piece of paper. You write nuts about you. Nuts about you. Happy birthday. Hope your day is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Throw this on the front of a card. And there is your beautiful card. You do not need to do everything I'm showing you. Don't be intimidated, right? You're going to just stamp onto a piece of paper, put it on a piece of cardstock, and be done with it. Send it to someone. They're going to love it. You don't even need a ScanNCut. But these are some examples. If you do have dies, these are called Hippo and Friends dies. This is a piece of bedazzling paper and a piece of Blackberry Beauty ephemera and Blackberry Beauty Designer Series paper. And look what you can do with that if you do have dies. Okay, and then here is, like I said, that was what I did, Hippo and Friends dies for this one with the nuts about you on the back with another acorn trinket. As you can see, I'm nuts about these squirrels. You can say, when you mess up and you start coloring outside the lines, you just take your little dauber and you put some crumb cake all over and it makes it look like you planned it that way. Here's a piece of our new cork specialty paper. And this is our, oh, that one's plain inside. This is our In Good Taste Designer Series paper. And this is, again, just a little inch of that cork paper. And here's another one. And one of these bright-eyed, hope you're feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, is going to my nephew's wife because she's having surgery right now. And I'm going to say, hope you feel, because it's a good thing to say when you're recovering from surgery, hope you're feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And then this is just a tag that's ready to go. There's a branch. I just want to show you the branch because in the stamp set, this really cool branch, and you can put the leaves on the branch if you wanted to. But I just thought it looked better with the squirrel sitting on the branch. But you can take these leaves, which I haven't done yet, and you could do something like that. So even if you don't even want to use the squirrel part, look how cute that would be. Look how cute. You could go like that with your little leaves. And you could just make the leaves come off the branch and you nice have a little fall. And so I have a different stamp set and I can't remember which one it is, but it says something like, Happy Fall, y'all. It's one of my stamps that say Happy Fall, y'all. And I think I could say, hey there, Happy Fall, y'all, or Happy Fall, y'all, nuts about you. I think the squirrel's going to go good with that little saying, with these little leaves. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial with all of these ideas on what you can do with your things that you cut out with your ScanNCut. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Brenda. Dixie. Dixie said she got a ScanNCut after watching me. Awesome. Okay, I'm glad you guys can find my... Maria, I'll let you in the group right after this video is over. Katie's telling you where to find the group on Facebook. All right. Thank you all for watching. This is The Paper Chef, and we'll see you real soon.